Well, week 2 provided some big fantasy performances for some fantasy owners, but perhaps none bigger than what transpired out in Arlington as the Saints not just marched, but ran through Dallas on the legs of a 4-touchdown performance from Alvin Kamara, giving fantasy managers a major boost for their week 2 lineups. And I certainly hope he was in your lineup as we are joined by 2-time Fantasy Analyst of the Year and my QB1, Jamey Eisenberg. Not everyone had a high-yielding return on Sunday, especially those with top playmakers who might be headed to the sidelines for a bit. And I'm looking at Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco, who was seen leaving the stadium on crutches and in a walking boot on Sunday. Now, certainly tough news for those who are already thin or struggling at the running back position, but who is someone you seeing step up if he is to miss some time?
Well, I think you got to look at Carson Steele, who got some opportunities, had a fumble, but will probably get the chances to lead them in carries. And then Samaje Perine would be the guy that plays on passing downs. I would lean a little bit toward Perine in PPR leagues, probably Steele in non-PPR leagues. Let's hope that, Pacheco is going to be fine. The best thing that could come out of this, though, is that we see Patrick Mahomes open up the offense a little bit more because Pacheco's been so good for them the first 2 weeks. And the run game has been so good that it's sort of put a little bit of a ceiling on what Mahomes in the passing game have been able to do. So you figure Andy Reid gets a little bit more creative, throw the ball to Travis Kelce a little bit more. Where that guy has been, I don't know. Rashee Rice continues to improve. Maybe Xavier Worthy gets some carries out of the backfield as well. But I think just in terms of the running backs replacing Pacheco, it would be most likely Carson Steele is the one that gets the biggest boost.
Yeah, what happened to Travis Kelce, I feel like, is another conversation we certainly need to have, but we'll put that on for another day. But the injuries continue to pile up also for several wide receivers, including Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Cooper Kupp. Jamey, I'm panicking. Help me out here.
Well, I think the first place you look is Rashid Shaheed, if he's available. The way Derek Carr is playing right now and what Shaheed has done the first 2 weeks, we said he was going to be the most popular receiver. He should have been the first receiver to add off waivers last week, and comes out and has another big game, big catch as the Saints rout the Cowboys. If you're looking for it sounds like Jefferson's going to be okay. If not, Jalen Naylor, because of Jordan Addison's injury, he would be a guy to step up and make some plays. For Cooper Kupp being out, look, the Rams are struggling right now. If you don't have Kupp and Puka Nacua, Demarcus Robinson's widely available still. Tyler Johnson, I think, will make some plays. Jordan Whittington. Really nobody stepped up today without Puka and then Kupp going down, so it's hard to say somebody's a significant add, but Demarcus Robinson would be my favorite player to go out and get. When we go through, I think, over the next couple of days, we'll see if A.J. Brown's injury lingers, what that means for Jahan Dotson, another guy that has an opportunity to step up and make some plays. Brandon Cooks did not have a big day today for the Cowboys, but he's somebody that has some long-term appeal. There's not exactly a lot of, standout options right away off the waiver wire, but right now, Rashid Shaheed would be the easy guy to go target if he's still out there on your waiver wire.
All right, well, here's the conversation we can have, because you and I sat here a week ago, had some questions about some young playmakers who maybe perhaps underperformed, maybe what was expected of them in the season opener, but boy, they silenced the critics and then also proved you right that it was obviously far too early to start questioning production. But Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors having monster games for fantasy owners on Sunday. Now, what should fantasy owners maybe maintain their expectations going forward, just considering we have now seen both sides of the coin from both of those two?
Yeah, I'll start with Neighbors, because I think last week really wasn't awful. 5 catches, 66 yards. We know Daniel Jones is going to have inconsistent performances, which is going to lower the upside of what Neighbors can be. Now, he's not going to get 18 targets on a weekly basis, so let's just kind of go somewhere in between. And I think you're looking at a guy that could be 7-8 catches on a week-to-week basis, can be around 80-90 yards, and the chance to score is always there just based on his potential, not necessarily Daniel Jones. So he's a must-start receiver moving forward. And I think the same thing with Marvin Harrison. I like the fact that he came out and said he was thinking too much, that it was, look, they went into Buffalo. Not an easy place to play. West Coast team going East Coast for a 1 o'clock start. Not an easy setup. And so first game jitters probably were at play there. You saw them come out. They moved them around a little bit today in that matchup against the Rams. Easier opponent just by comparison to Buffalo. And Kyler Murray saying, yes, it's not his job to get in the ball. Well, you know what, Kyler, it is your job to get in the ball and focus on him and feature him. Obviously, you would have made a mistake by drafting him from a team perspective that high in the NFL draft. So both these guys have so much potential, but they are still rookies. What we usually see is the second half of the season when these guys start to take off. So if they're doing things like this now, you can only imagine by the end of the year when they're not thinking, they're just playing and reacting to the way the game is unfolding. They're going to be monsters. So you should expect a lot of big games moving forward.
Absolutely, especially once they get acclimated into the full game speed. Things can certainly be on the up and up for these young guys. But I want to go back to that biggest performance on Sunday. Alvin Kamara with that monster day, 4 touchdowns against a Dallas defense that ranked among the best in the league a season ago. Jamey, I want to ask you, what would you predict is more likely to happen again for fantasy owners? Maybe another big game like this for Kamara, or perhaps this Dallas defense that allows a team to put up 44 on them?
You know, it's unrealistic to expect, Alvin Kamara to do this. This Dallas defense right now doesn't look as good as it did in week 1. And we knew there were going to be changes. You know, you lose your coordinator in Dan Quinn. Mike Zimmer is a proven guy, but they lost some pieces. You know, Deron Bland, for example, in the secondary, not there. Run defense not as stout. They're going to play better than this. But let's give the Saints some credit. You know, this team came in with some offensive line concerns, a lot of questions of whether they just playing a preseason game essentially last week because they played the Carolina Panthers. This was a statement game, and it was a statement game for Alvin Kamara, who at his age, contract situation, feels like we're getting to the end of the line with him. But he shows you there's still the potential to be a superstar. And a couple of things that have changed. First off, Clint Kubiak coming in as the offense coordinator. He's the guy that was in San Francisco as part of that coaching staff, so you thought maybe there could be some Christian McCaffrey-like numbers. Well, this is certainly a Christian McCaffrey-type game. Then you had this game unfold where Taysom Hill gets hurt, and there's clearly the opportunity for Taysom Hill to take Kamara off the field in some of those short yardage situations like we saw last year. But Derek Carr is playing great. The Saints offense looks definitely much better, much improved with Kubiak. And so Kamara is only going to benefit. So if he stays healthy, there's going to be just an opportunity for him to shatter his average draft position, to become a must-start fantasy option. We had this conversation on our podcast a little while ago. Would you trade Alvin Kamara for Christian McCaffrey straight up right now, knowing that McCaffrey, when he comes back, could be better? And the answer across the board was no. If Kamara can play like this, he's going to be one of the top 3 running backs in fantasy.
Okay, well, Alvin Kamara would 100% be my biggest winner from week 2, considering his performance. But aside from the fact that I did have to face him in not 1 but 2 leagues this week, who would be your biggest winner from Sunday's slate?
Yeah, I'm going to go to our start of the week, and that was J.K. Dobbins. I had high expectations for him, and he delivered, 130 yards rushing for back-to-back games. Continues to prove that when he's healthy, among the best running backs in football, and took advantage of that JV roster that he played against in the Carolina Panthers. But this is now back-to-back weeks of strong running dominance for him. And the only thing I think, which is kind of a push-and-pull situation, the positive is that the Chargers don't seem like they're going to run him into the ground. They're using Gus Edwards a lot. The negative is obviously that they're still using Gus Edwards a lot. But for a guy that missed 43 games in his career due to injuries, looking the way that he's looked right now in this new opportunity with the Chargers, the way that the offense is going to operate under Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they want to be a heavy run-dominant team. And right now, Dobbins looking like an absolute superstar. So another guy that's going to shatter his average draft position and looking like a must-start running back moving forward. And
that's in back-to-back weeks, having some standout performances for him. But if we're going to talk winners, we also have to flip to that other side of the coin and talk losers. So who let you down in week 2?
Yeah, look, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Big win going into Detroit and playing like they have been the last 2 games. But, even today, take on a very good Detroit team in their old building. But Rachaad White, now, this is back-to-back weeks where he's not looked good running the ball. And that's concerning, especially when you get a game like this where he's not as involved in the passing game. Now, he got a little bit banged up in the game. So hopefully it's not an injury situation. But, again, 2 weeks in a row where the rushing production has not been there for him. And we know the Bucs love their rookie running back in Bucky Irving. So I hope that we're not going to see a situation where Rachaad White, not necessarily from an injury perspective, but starts to lose touches and high-value touches to Irving, who also could be a good pass catcher out of the backfield. As long as White is still making plays in the passing game, you're going to love him. But when we get games like this where there's no touchdowns, where there's poor rushing performance and no work in the passing game, we call that a trap back and not someone that you want to have in your lineup. So I hope next week, very favorable matchup against Denver, so I'm still going to start him and start him with confidence. But if we get another bad running game from him again, we could be looking at somebody that might be heading toward a committee and maybe heading toward your fantasy bench.
A tale as old as time. We have seen this happen numerous times in the NFL, and certainly hoping things, especially for those fantasy owners that do have him on their roster, hopefully seeing more production out of him. Jamey, as always, thanks so much for the insight.